My name's Jesse Duke. I'm here representing Western Copper and Gold Corporation. Their primary asset is the casino deposit in Yukon, which is right now at the feasibility stage. Obviously, ports are an important consideration for that particular project. Early at the pre-feasibility stage, Hayden was looked at very seriously as an option. One thing led to another, and the decision was taken that the primary port facility would be Skagway. A number of reasons for that, but I think it's important probably for the Haynes folks to know that at the end of the day there are some constraints with respect to Skagway, and particularly during construction. Some of the very heavy equipment probably cannot go through because of some of the bridges and the restrictions on the bridges. So there will be some use of the Haynes port facility for that particular project. And in terms of probably what would be useful, and maybe I don't speak for myself, but a lot of folks, it would be very, very useful, I think, to have some specifics about exactly what port facilities can handle now. A lot of the developments in the Yukon are happening, and they're happening imminently. And I think that would be useful information to have. Certainly, the demand is there and it's growing.
I'm the regional planning chief for Southeast Alaska for Department of Transportation and Public Facilities. And I'm here today to listen and learn and as to when mines that are being developed in the Yukon and especially in the north and southeast. I think it's me. Attempt to, as best we can, to forecast when we need to strengthen our roads to stay ahead of the game, to support mine development and port development in the north end of southeast Alaska. And so we're very much interested in what's happening in the Yukon today in northern southeast. We're interested in what demands are going to be put on the Klondike Highway and what demands are going to be put on the Haynes Highway. And we have reconstruction projects and strengthening projects in the pipeline for both roads. And with respect to the Haynes Highway, we currently have an environmental document that's in process. It's been, I hate to say, dragging along slower than we'd like to see, but we do believe we'll complete the environmental process by early spring, January, March period. And we will be proceeding with final design for the first segment of the Haynes Highway, which will be mileposts 21 to 25.3, a segment that includes the Chilkat River Bridge, which is currently the main, the weakest link in the Haynes Highway as far as heavy haul loads. We develop our highways using federal highway aid. The Federal Highway Administration and the capital funds that they give to us expect us to design to legal loads. The project that we're developing is to improve the highway to current legal loads. And as such, we're also particularly interested in what we're going to do in replacing the Chilkat River Bridge. It's the largest bridge on the Haynes Highway. I believe the cost estimate, the replacement cost estimate's in the area of $13 million. It would cost us an extra $2.5 to $3 million to strengthen it initially to meet the B-train configurations that we're seeing on the Klondike Highway today and anticipate in the future. So that's one decision that we have that we're going to be confronted with right up front. And if we do build it to higher loading, we're going to have to seek some state funds for that. So, in any event, my job is to listen to you and to monitor the development in the Yukon to determine when we need to have our highway to a certain load capability, capacity capability. And of course, this is our job throughout our system. But our interest, at least with respect to Haynes and the Klondike Highway, is to make sure that either road is not a deterrent to future development. So that's my concern today.
Hello, I'm Laura Spicer. I'm with Yukon Government Oil and Gas, and I want to thank the Borough of Haynes and the Port Authority Development Council for inviting us to your village, borough. Our concern is probably focused around natural gas. Oil is a potential, but natural gas is on the forefront. Natural gas development in the Yukon needs a way to get out, and mines and energy generation needs to happen in the Yukon. We're at the point where our hydro developments are pretty much operating at full capacity, and we're using hydrocarbons to or meet our load almost every month of the year. Liquefied natural gas has been identified as a short-term solution to that issue. So mines, the electrical companies are looking at using generators that use liquefied natural gas rather than diesel because it's cleaner and more economical. So that is the main oil and natural gas linked to.
Hello everybody, I'm Clint. I'm the Director of the Business and Economic Research Branch for the Department of Economic Development for Government of Yukon. One of my mandates is to take a look at infrastructure, specifically transportation infrastructure. And we see Haynes Port as potentially being a cost-effective inbound and outbound facility for Yukon projects. And it may have some logistical advantages for Yukon companies, like Jesse mentioned. We're here to, I'd like to get a copy of the Borough Port Development Study when it's available, of course. And we're here to engage with stakeholders to see if we can find a way to facilitate the development, still be able to support the continuing development in Yukon.
My name is Mark Stevens. I'm the mining policy analyst for the Department of Energy, Mines and Resources with the Government of Yukon. My role in government basically is to monitor what's going on in the mining industry in the Yukon, which right now is at the peak of a pretty big boom in the last few years. And we hope that we can sustain that for the next few years as well. And that'll benefit Haynes as well in terms of their planning for a possible new port. So anyway, I would just like to thank the organizers, Bill, and the others for this opportunity to meet all of you people and to be able to get some networking done, make some acquaintances, so in the future we can share a lot of information across the border a lot more easy. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Terry Hayden, the Deputy Minister of the Department of Economic Development for Government of Yukon. As you're probably aware, the Yukon has been undergoing long-term economic growth. For the last 9 years, our growth has actually exceeded that of Canada. Recent reports by the Conference Board of Canada and our own economic group have forecasted continuing growth for the Yukon, which is very important. Right now we have 3 producing mines. We got 6 in the permitting stage. We've got 10 or so in advanced permitting, so it looks like we're in for some continued growth over the longer term. So this is fueled by strong investment by the private sector, some of which are represented here today. What we consider a good, strong, open for business attitude in the Yukon, and a demand for resources from countries around the Pacific Rim. That in turn has fueled the need for Yukon to have effective access to tidewater. And we see Haynes as a possible solution to that. Now, the Bureau of Haynes did an excellent presentation at our Transportation Forum in January of this year, and outlined some of the advantages of the Haynes Port. So we're here today to see what's new, get an update on it, meet the additional people behind the Bureau, and have a chance to network with the folks. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Richard Wyman. I'm president of Northern Cross Yukon Limited. This is an oil and gas exploration company. Our assets are located in the North Yukon, roughly at the Arctic Circle. My interest in being here is to investigate potential options for any resources that we might discover to find their way to market. At this stage, I think our interest is of a longer-term nature. We're still at the very beginning of our program, and it will take quite a few years to properly assess the resource potential and then develop whatever plans are necessary to commercialize those. The properties are about 800 miles from here by road, although you could shorten that up if you took a straight line instead of following the road. But the region is prone for both natural gas discovery as well as crude oil. So at this point, it would be hard to say definitively how this will play out. But this part of Alaska is year-round access to markets. I think for any resources not currently connected to a market in North America right now, the options are preferentially looking for international markets rather than ones within the continent. And that's one of the reasons why we'd be looking at Haynes. So from my point of view, this is conceptual, but I think these kind of projects, if they are to be successful, will take a long time to unfold anyway. And for a planning horizon in this part of Alaska, consideration should be given to projects that might be very large in relation to what the current experience has been. For example, if this was to become a liquefied natural gas manufacturing place with export capacity, you'd be looking at projects on a scale that are quite similar to what's been proposed in Prince Rupert or Kitimat in British Columbia, what you might find in Australia or other parts of the world. So you'd need to have some power generation infrastructure, you'd have to have housing to accommodate construction, parties, there would have to be services of from various kinds of trades to support the operation, and you'd be looking at quite large tankers coming in and out of the area to move the product to market. The time horizon is probably nudging a decade if everything works at our drill bit. So there's plenty of time to get your thoughts organized and determine whether this is something that you'd want to consider. And from our point of view, in the oil and gas industry, we're at the bleeding edge of this game, so there's a lot of things that we have to learn, and it's still pretty early for us to make any kind of commitments. But I can say, by way of some background, Northern Cross is a Yukon incorporated business, but we have a very large shareholder in the form of a Chinese oil company who is one of the largest LNG traders in the world. So they are going to be instrumental if we are able to identify sufficient resources in the North Yukon in helping to commercialize and market that product. And in closing, I'd like to thank the Bureau of Haynes and the Port Authority for organizing this, Bill for the invitation, I think these kind of gatherings are very good, and it's always nice to start some dialogue, however early in the process this is, because lots of stuff has to happen for any of these things to succeed. Thanks.